Is Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, what a title, is Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, is this game good? That is a good question, actually, because I actually had made a video, I think like a week ago, talking about this game. And obviously, at that time, we were talking about the performance, issues and the frame rate issues that it was having on consoles and PC and everything, and how everyone, it just seems like, was dogging on the game. It just seems like everyone was not liking, in terms of like the actual like performance of the game and like the frame rate issues and everything. It just seems like everyone was not having it with this game, and people were calling it out. Obviously, there was the Digital Foundry video of them going over the different performances and how it ran on base PS5s and PS5 Pros and PC, and how like the base PS5 would run better than the PS5 Pro and everything, and it being like the PC version being capped at like 60 frames per second and everything, and like the frame rate drops and everything. It just seemed like this game, before, everyone else got their hands on it, was, seemed to be, not very, not a very good remake, to be honest. And so going into that, when I made that video, I had made up in my mind at that point where I was like, okay, so this game is $70. This game is a AAA $70 premier game. Like, obviously, if you're paying that much up front, your game has to be of quality. It can't have, a bunch of issues attached with it, especially in today's age where, like, yeah, games are expensive. Games are getting up to $80 in price. And so, with that, in that video, made it, clear that, hey, I would want to, because I was kind of struggling, because I still wanted to try the game out, but I was hearing all these, issues it had with the game, or the performance issues and stuff like that it had. But I was also seeing, the scores that this game were getting at the time as well. And it seemed like people were, still enjoying the game. It had a 80, I think it had like an 86 on Metacritic. I don't know the Metacritic score right now. Actually, let me look that up real quick. Yeah, it is still at a 86 on Metacritic, which is pretty good. It's, across the board, it has pretty positive reviews. So like at the time, I was in a weird state of like, should I still get this game? Should I listen to people who are saying, this game has a bunch of performance issues and the game is, not good? I don't know. At that point, I was like, okay, I'm not going to get the game. I was like, actually, I'm going to wait. It's just like, I don't know. It's just like, should I get this game, bro? Or should I wait? And I'm leaning towards still waiting. And I was like, I can play other games. It's fine. I don't have to get this game right now. If they do patch it, if they do fix the, console ports of the game, maybe I'll get it then. Because I was going to get it on console because, I heard the PC version, I guess, what is like the best version to play on, I guess. But like, my PC is not like the most up-to-date PC, whatever, when it comes to running these types of new games. And so I didn't want to run the chance of buying this game on PC and it, not being not being able to handle my PC, because my PC is still a good gaming PC, but it's definitely not the most current up-to-date, version of a PC. But, I'm rambling. But getting back to the actual, thing itself, I had made up my mind I wasn't going to get, the game. But I think, like, I don't even know if it was the same day or the day after, I, was watching some clips and videos, and I was actually watching one person live stream the game, and, they were playing through the game, and they were talking about how, and even people in chat were talking about how, like, they had bought the game, some of the people had bought it on, console, or base PS5 consoles, and they were talking about how the game actually wasn't as bad as people were saying. It was actually playable. Like, it didn't have any massive performance issues like people were saying beforehand. And so, and so in that instance I was like, okay, I know I already said I wasn't going to get this game, but I decided, let me give this game a chance. Let me, actually see it through and actually play through this myself. And if it's bad, I'll talk about, how it was bad. If it's good, I'm going to talk about how I enjoyed my time with this game. Either way, I was like, let me just give my thoughts and opinions instead of, freaking having everyone else's thoughts and opinions cloud my mind and like just freaking, make up my mind for me. I was like, okay, let me just buy the game and play it myself. And that's what I'm going to be talking about in this video. This is going to be a review of Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. I'm going to be giving my thoughts and opinions on the game, giving me thoughts on the gameplay, just the story and everything, and just, everything. And so, yeah, man, without further ado, let's get into the review of Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater.
With darkness and silence through the night, what a thrill. I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart, but you're so supreme. I give my someday you'll feed on a tree frog. This ordeal, the trial to survive for the day we see new life. I give my life not for honor but for you. In my
Okay, so what are my thoughts on Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater? Well, I enjoyed the game, actually. I actually enjoyed playing through this game. Going into this, obviously, we were talking about the performance issues and the frame rate issues and everything. And this game still has, some performance issues, some frame rate issues, especially during like action moments and everything. There will be like dips in frame rate, but it's definitely not terrible. It's definitely not like anything like unplayable in my opinion. I played on a base PS5 and Yeah, I definitely do not think this game runs terribly. There are some moments where like, you'll be doing an action scene or you might like blow up a barrel. Like you might shoot a barrel and it blows up and there you might be a dip in frame rate or you might be like in combat or like action. Like there might be just like a lot going on and there might be some frame rate dips, but like even then, like I don't feel like there were a lot of, excessive frame rate dips or anything like that. So the game, in my opinion, runs well. It runs solidly, in my opinion, for me playing on a base PS5. But overall, I enjoyed this game. Like, actually, I enjoyed the gameplay, I enjoyed the story. And yeah, I want to go section by section. So obviously, I want to talk about the gameplay first, and then we'll get into the story and, get into some other things. But I specifically want to start with the gameplay. So, coming into this game particular, the only other Metal Gear Solid game that I had ever played was the first one, Metal Gear Solid. I think just one. I don't know if it's just called Metal Gear Solid 1 or specifically, but that was the only Metal Gear game that I had played previously beforehand playing this game. And so playing that game, I when it came to the gameplay and specifically the stealth, because when it comes to stealth, I think I'm starting to realize this about myself. And when it comes to stealth in the Metal Gear games, because I've only played two games, the stealth I remember specifically in the first one, the stealth was actually like enjoyable. Obviously, I think I was playing like the remastered version of the first game, and so like I do remember many times, when I was playing the first game where I felt like I was not very good at the gameplay, specifically like the stealth moments. I felt like I was, always getting caught or always getting like, you know, I felt like I was not like doing, good enough when it came to like the stealth sections in that game. And it was a weird thing because in that game, I remember, starting off, they don't really tell you, specifically for the first Metal Gear game, they don't really tell you, like, there's no, like, specific, like, tutorial that'll pop up on screen and tell you, hey, this is how you do this thing, or this is how you do that thing. You have to, use, and I think it's, like, the radio frequency that they give you in the game, like, you have to use the radio frequency to talk to a specific person and they'll give you information on how to do a certain move or a certain thing in the game. And obviously going into this game, there are two modes that you can pick from. Obviously you have it's called the new style gameplay, which is like, I guess like the remake version of the gameplay basically. And then I think you have the classic mode, which is more of the, I guess, top-down version of the game, or the more classic version of how to play the game. I played the new style, or I guess the modern version of the game, and obviously it's a more third-person, up-to-date, version of how, most third-person action shooters are. And so I played that version, and going into it, I, was obviously way more familiar with MGS because I played the first game. And so when it came to the stealth, starting off when it came to the stealth, I did feel like I was bad at it still. And I felt like there were like many moments, throughout my maybe first hour, 2 hour, 2 hours playing the game where I felt like, dang, I'm really bad at the stealth. Like even I felt like, when I was like hiding in a bush and like the enemy would still see me, I was like, what am I doing wrong? Like, and it wasn't until like I got like maybe halfway through the game and everything. It wasn't until then where I was like actually starting to understand, and actually I felt like I was getting better at the stealth. Like I felt like I was actually getting through sections without being seen. Like I was getting through sections and actually being stealthy and using like the different weapons that they give you. Obviously they give you like a as an example, they give you like a sonar detector in which you can equip and you can like sense where the enemies are. Like they'll give like little like white dots to indicate, hey, this is where this enemy is, this is where that enemy is. And obviously, they give you like a pistol, and like you can put like a silencer on it, and so you can stealthily take out enemies and stuff like that. When it came to like the pistol and stuff like that, I, for some reason, and I don't know why, I feel like this is like, I do this, like, if a game doesn't specifically tell me how to use an item, then I'll just, like, I won't use the item correctly. And with, like, the pistol, obviously they give you, like, a silencer. And I just remember, like, when I first started playing the game, they specifically told me, hey, you can only use, the silencer only, a handful of times until it breaks. And I just remember, like, playing through, like, the first hour of the game and like using the silencer, and it broke, and I was like, okay, how do I actually get the silencer back onto the pistol now? And like I literally went like maybe halfway through the game without realizing, oh, you can just, there's a button that you just press that automatically puts the silencer back onto the into the pistol so you can use it again. It's like little things like that like, I don't know, I just slip my mind, or like I don't realize until like I'm halfway through the game and I have to look up a freaking video, and then I feel like an idiot. But like, yeah, the stealth in the game is definitely fun. It's definitely, I feel like there are people who, or I guess people who are going to play this game who are way more creative and way more like fluid probably when it comes to the stealth and like the gameplay in this game. There are probably a lot of things that like I didn't do in this game that other people are gonna utilize and do in this game that make the gameplay even more creative and fun. And you also get, in terms of like other mechanics in the game, you also get like a camouflage basically in the game. And depending on the scenery, and I guess like where you are, like there would be some sections where like if you're hiding in a bush and the area is kind of like green and everything, you'll put on like you'll have the option, and they give you like a list of the different outfits that you can choose from. If you're like hiding in a bush, and a bush is typically bushes are green, if you're hiding in a bush, you can put on like or you can camouflage yourself to look more I guess, or blend in more with the scenery and everything like that. And I thought that was pretty cool as well. And if you're also, as an other example, there, I think it was like the first section of the game, you had like an area with like a bunch of enemies, and the area was kind of like a brick, kind of structured area with like walls and stuff like that and everything. It was kind of like a building. It wasn't a building, but it was kind of like it kind of looked like a construction, zone, but like building. I don't know. But like that area, they had like brick walls, and the brick walls were like a certain color. So you would switch to a color that would more fit that environment, so you would blend in more, and you could like stealth your way through the section. And so those parts I thought were cool as well. Talking about like some other things, obviously you get like a stamina bar in this game, and you have to like watch out and be careful to not use up all your stamina. But if you do, you obviously there are food, or I guess there is animals or different wildlife in the environment in the game that you can shoot and kill, and you'll basically get food, and that's how you recover your stamina and stuff like that. So like there'll be like random snakes that appear that you can shoot and eat. There are birds, there are like scorpions, I think there are rats, there are some just wildlife that you can just eat and stuff like that, and that regains your stamina. And so that I thought was also, cool. Talking about the boss fights, or just like the enemies in this game, obviously there are like just the regular foot soldiers that you come across in the game. But obviously in this game there are a lot of unique boss fights in this game. There are obviously in the game, I guess if you're talking about the story, you are playing as Snake, and you're in this like jungle, area. But in the game, you have these, I guess like this team, and they're called like the Cobras or something like that. And each Cobra is has their own, I guess, thing about them, or their own like ability. And so you have like this one character who is called the End, and it's basically some old dude, but like the old dude has like amazing sniping capabilities or something like that, and he has like a parrot, and like his eyes like bulge out of his head for some reason. I don't know why. But like you also have like other characters like I forget the character's name, but he's like a, I think he's called like the Sorrow or something like that, and you'll have like a section with him where his boss fight is just like, and I don't want to. Well, I guess we can go into spoilers. I mean, I should have maybe preferenced with saying, "Hey, I'm going to be talking about spoilers in this game." So if you haven't played this game, if you haven't beaten it, there I will be talking about light spoilers. I won't be like spoiling any like major story events or anything like that, but like I will be talking about different parts and sections of this game. So if you haven't played it, go play it and everything. But you have this character called the Sorrow, and his whole boss fight was basically you going through like this, I don't even know, like it was like this like river, and like there's like trees on both end, and like the tree, I think the trees were like on fire or something like that. I can't remember specifically. But like his whole gameplay section was you just like seeing the, I guess like the people that you had killed, and like they're just like ghosts and everything. And so like each part is like you'll see like, oh, you killed that one guy that had the capability to control bees or something like that, or you'll see another enemy that you had fought and killed, and you'll see him reappear. And so that section was cool. Obviously, I was talking about that guy who was like able to snipe really well. That section, that or his boss fight, I thought was really cool because it's basically just like a sniping battle. And so I thought that was cool as well. And there's some other boss fights. Obviously, I mentioned, I forget the character's name, but like he has the ability to control bees and stuff like that. So his boss fights were pretty cool. And so the boss fights in this game were actually pretty unique and cool, and I actually really liked them. And they're not like necessarily hard boss fights. Like they literally took me, except for the sniping battle, which I think out of all of this boss fights took me the longest because it's a very strategic type of boss fight. But the boss fights are not hard or anything like that. They're pretty easy. Like I got through all the boss fights pretty relatively like fast, I guess, if you want to say that. I don't know, except for maybe two. But yeah, they're not necessarily hard, but they still are pretty creative and everything. And I don't know if it was, I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a Batman fan, and like the when it comes to like certain video games, like I think of specifically because I'm a fan of the Arkham Batman games. And so whenever I play like a game or a certain game and it reminds me of like an Arkham game, I'll be like, hey, that kind of reminded me of like that certain Batman game. But with this game specifically, obviously you go through the game and you have like these boss fights with these different characters. And I don't know if it was just me, maybe it's because I am a Batman fan. It definitely reminded me of Batman Arkham Origins, because in that game are so like unique to me, because you have like boss fights where like you'll fight Bane, or you'll fight Deathstroke, or you'll fight Copperhead, and those boss fights are so uniquely different and everything. And so I don't know, that just reminded me of that, because in this game you fight there are bosses in this game, but like they're one boss might have like a certain thing about them, or like they might be super good at this type of fighting style, or like whatever, or they might be a ghost, or they might be really good at sniping, or they might be able to control bees, or like stuff like that. And so I don't know, that kind of just reminded me of like Batman Arkham Origins for some reason. I know this game came out before Arkham Origins, so you could probably say that like Arkham Origins took probably maybe some inspiration from this game. And so I don't know, that could be an interesting thing that I had never thought about. But yeah, I really enjoyed the boss fights in this game, the gameplay I enjoy, the stealth sections and everything, and yeah. Okay, so I wanted to talk about the graphics in this game, or like the visuals, or like whatever you want to call it. And if we're just talking about this game on a like visual, or like just the graphics like by itself, this game is a 10 out of 10 in my opinion. The graphics in this game, this probably is like the best looking game I have played this year, just like in terms of just the visuals and everything. And I know this is a Unreal Engine 5 game, and I know when we talk about Unreal Engine 5, we talk about like, you know, how bad specifically on console, like when it comes to Unreal Engine 5 games, how bad the performance is, how bad, you know, frame rate issues can, you know, be and everything like that. And I think one thing we cannot take away from Unreal Engine 5 games are the graphics. The graphics in this game are amazing. They like some of the shots in this game, like there is some like, because I like to take photos whenever I play like a new game. I like to take, you know, just snapshots of like different scenes or like different shots of games that I really like. And there are a lot of, and I took like a lot of snapshots of just like different shots from this game, and like you can literally like some of these like shots like look like you can like make them like a background on like your PC or like a wallpaper. Like that's how good some of the freaking, you know, shots you know, and everything were, and just like the graphics in general were like. And so that's another thing that I think this game does, like knocks it out of the park in terms of like the graphics and everything. And so I had no complaints there. Okay, so talking about the story in this game, I actually did enjoy the story in this game. Obviously, this is a, you know, it's in the title of the game. You know, it says, you know, it's obviously it's a Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater, but at the top it says tactical espionage, you know, mission, or I guess game. And yeah, this game definitely feels like, when it comes to like the story and just like the feel of the, you know, the game itself, it definitely feels like a spy movie, you could say. Like, you know, it has very like, you know, cool elements of like, you know, spy, I guess, elements, and just like even with like the music and it feeling very jazzy, you know, and everything like that, and just like the setting, or not the setting, but like yeah, just like the characters and like the freaking music and like the just the whole feel of the game. Yeah, it definitely feels like, you know, something out of like a James Bond like movie or something like that. But this is obviously way more ridiculous and everything, I guess, if you want to say. But yeah, man, I enjoyed the story in this game. I also enjoyed the characters in this game. Obviously, you know, some of the, you know, standout characters that, you know, I remember from this game are obviously, you know, Snake. You know, you have Ava or Eva. Is it Eva or Ava? I guess it doesn't matter. You know, she's kind of like, or Ava is kind of like the love interest, if you want to say, in this game. And there, it's funny because, God dang, like the first, like I feel like every scene she's in, like she is, and I know, I guess it's like kind of the point is that she's supposed to be like trying to seduce Snake and trying to get him to like fall in love with her, or like whatever. But like there are just like certain scenes where like she'll just be like half naked for like no reason, or she'll unzip her like her vest, and like she'll literally just have like a bra on and just her boobs are showing. And it's funny because there is in the game there are like, when it comes to certain cutscenes, you'll have this thing that'll like pop up. It'll usually pop up on like the right top corner of like the game, and you'll have it'll say like R1, and when you press that button, it'll like, you know, focus in on like particular things and like particular like, you know, I guess like moments, I guess, or like whatever you want to say. But you know, as an example, you know, when you first, you know, play the game, you have Snake, and, you know, he's obviously jumping out of the, you know, plane, and everything, and like he's parachuting down to like the jungle, forest area. While he's in the air and everything, you can actually press, when you press R1, you'll be able to like go first person and like see through like his eyes, like what he's seeing while he's like, the cutscene is playing. And so those parts I thought were cool. But like, I say that to say, I think it was like one of the first scenes that Ava was in. Literally, there was like a scene where she had like her vest, unzipped and her boobs were showing, and the freaking R1 button, appeared, and I was like, okay, what do they want me to look at? I press it, and it's just literally just Snake, first person view of him staring at Ava's boobs. Staring at Ava's boobs, and I don't know, I thought that was funny, like whatever. But like, yeah, her character is like, basically like the love interest. She like has also like, she's really good at like riding like a motorbike, or like this motorcycle that she has in the game, and so that was also another cool part of the game. Obviously, you have other characters like Boss. She's basically like I guess like her name kind of just implies the type of character that she's going to be. She's a very like, she is basically like the final boss of like the game. Like she's she's the person that Snake has the most trouble with dealing with, because Snake used to, or I guess Boss used to be the teacher of Snake, and so Boss taught everything that Snake knows, and everything. And so like whenever they fight, Boss is usually 9 times out of 10 gets the upper hand on Snake and everything. You also have the character of Volgin, which I thought his character was pretty cool. And there's like a particular like scene that they have in this game, and I don't want to like spoil it or anything, that involves another character and him just freaking torturing this character. I'm just like, throughout this part, I'm just like, god dang, like this character is taking such like brutal like freaking torture from like Volgin. I'm just like, god dang, I feel bad for this character right now in this moment. In this moment. But that character was intimidating, I thought, and cool, and like he has the ability to basically control lightning, and so like electricity, and so I thought that was cool. And also he has these bullets, like he just has like a bunch of bullets like on his body, but like he pulls out like these bullets, and he'll use the bullets as like, I guess like, I don't know, like brass knuckles, like the like knuckles. He'll use the bullets. He'll basically put them in between like his fingers to like make like a knuckle, like, or like a, I don't know the term for it, but like that was cool. I thought, I don't know, I thought that was like an interesting thing, I guess, I don't know. And then you have Ocelot, which is, I remember Ocelot, he was in the first game too, but he was called like Revolver Ocelot. And so that's another thing that this game is, or I guess, this game is a prequel to all the other Metal Gear games. And so this is technically the first one out of all of them. And so you'll get characters like Snake and Ocelot, and, obviously in the other games, characters like Snake, he has like an eye patch in a bandana, but obviously in the first couple of hours of this game, he doesn't have those things. And so basically, this is basically an origin story for Snake, like characters like Snake and Ocelot, and of how like Snake got his bandana and how he got, his eye patch and everything like that. And so, and I thought that was cool. We get to see how Ocelot becomes, Revolver Ocelot, essentially. And so I just thought, us learning how these characters became the characters that we know them in the other games, I thought was pretty cool as well. But even though I did enjoy the story in this game, I will say, I think one negative, well, I guess maybe two negatives, but yeah, I guess talking about the other negative real quick, and when it comes to like the dialogue in just like the, I guess the voice acting in this game, it is very like anime and very like, I guess, a little bit corny. But to me at least, like, I mean, I guess you could say it's a negative because, the dialogue's kind of like corny and it's not very like, I don't want to say it's not good. Like, it's very like, anime-esque in terms of like the dialogue and everything. And you could say it kind of has like it's kind of like a charming thing, like in terms of it being kind of corny and everything like that. You know, some people might actually like that it's like, you know, like that, but and I do too, but like I can see how other people don't. But the other negative that I have in terms of just the way this game presents the story and everything, I do feel like, and I did feel like this also with Death Stranding. I feel like Death Stranding had this problem as well. And when it comes to, I guess, just like how this game presents like information in this game, I do feel like it's a lot of just like exposition dumping and a lot of just like just talk, like I don't know how they well, I do know how they explain it, but like I feel like there will just be like moments where like you'll have like these characters and like they're, you know, about to like fight, or like they're about to like, their action might occur, but like for some reason you'll have just a character just go like, okay, we're about to fight, but I'm gonna explain to you how I got to this moment and how I, you know, became who I am, or like whatever, for like 10 minutes. And I do feel like those parts, because I feel like they do that in Death Stranding. And I will say I feel like they do it like even more. I feel like it's even worse in Death Stranding when it comes to like, you know, characters just like explaining things, and I feel like there's just a lot of just explaining and explaining. And I feel like with this game it's definitely not as bad as it was in like a game like Death Stranding, but I do feel like there are moments where like I feel like you could say there are pacing issues sometimes, where like, you know, there would be times where like characters are just exposition dumping, and it just feels like I feel like there's a better way to do this. It's a lot of like, you know, because you hear, you know, when it comes to like storytelling and, you know, writing, you hear the phrase, hey, show, don't tell. And I feel like this game just tells like a lot. Like there's a lot of times where the game is just spouting out things, and like half the time I'm just like, okay, this is interesting, but like this is also like I feel like you could be explaining this in a way more interesting way than just exposition dumping. So that's another thing that I guess one negative that I didn't like about the story. But overall, I enjoyed the story of this game and everything, and so yeah. I almost forgot to talk about this, and I probably could have talked about this, you know, just talking about the story and everything, but and I don't even know if this is necessarily, it's not even a spoiler or anything, but like for me at least, I already knew this part of the game was gonna be in the game just from cultural osmosis and knowing, you know, some things about the Metal Gear, you know, franchise already beforehand. Obviously, you have the part of Snake climbing on like the long ladder as the theme song of Snake Eater plays in the background. And it was so funny because literally there was one part, like when I got to a certain part of the game, and I just remember like getting through like a boss fight, and there's a door, like once you beat the boss fight there's a door you have to go through, and I get through the door, and you know it loads into the next section, and it's so funny. I just like literally when I get to that part, I just see a ladder just at the end of like this, like the hallway or this tunnel or like whatever, and I'm just thinking to like literally my first thought is, oh, they're about to do that scene. And I was like like I didn't even have to like, I literally just saw the ladder and I was like, okay, yeah, I know what scene this is. And obviously I had already, it kind of sucks because I had already seen this, part through like, YouTube videos and like other things and like cultural osmosis, but actually getting to like see it for myself and play through it myself. And I know you're not like, you're just climbing a ladder, but like that moment, obviously that's like one of the most, you could argue that's like one of the most iconic moments in like video game history, is him of Snake climbing the ladder as like the Snake Eater theme plays in the background. Bro, experiencing that for the first time was like, oh my God. Like, I know this is like the remake version, isn't the original, but just playing it anyway and just experiencing it for the first time, I thought was super cool. And so that part I really liked. So I just wanted to talk about that real quick. Okay, so I have done a lot of rambling in this video, but it is finally time to give a score for this game, basically. And so yeah, man, I really enjoyed Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater. I think I enjoyed it more than I thought I would. I mean, obviously, when it comes to this game, it's not necessarily, they don't do anything like drastically different when it comes to like the story or like the gameplay or anything like that. It is just Metal Gear Solid 3, but just in a remake form with like better graphics and better controls and better, stuff like that. And so it would make sense that I would still actually really enjoy this game, because obviously people have said that like when it comes to the Metal Gear games, this is probably, some people say like this is the best one. And so yeah, I definitely enjoyed the gameplay, the story. I actually really enjoyed my time with Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. And yeah, if I'm going to give this game a score, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed my time with this game, dude. I know a lot of people, ragged on this game for like the performance issues and like the frame rate issues that this game had, but I actually really enjoyed my time with this game. And yeah, this game still has performance issues and frame rate issues, but it's not as bad as, like, in my opinion, as like other people say it is, I guess. But yeah, man, I really enjoyed this game. And in my opinion, should you still wait to buy this game, because it is like $70? It is an expensive game, and obviously the game still has performance issues. Like, I'm not gonna say it doesn't have issues. It still has like some frame rate issues and performance issues, but obviously I played it on a base PS5 and I didn't have a lot of it wasn't like a terrible experience or anything like that. And so for me, I actually would recommend this game. Like, if you do want to spend the $70, or I guess if you don't want to spend $70, you could wait for like a sale on the game, if you feel like you don't want to spend that much money on a game like this. But yeah, I really enjoyed my time with this game. I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10. The only reason I didn't give it like a higher score or anything like that is because, like I said, there were still performance issues and stuff like that. And when it came to like some of the story, I guess, elements in the way they decided to present some of the I guess story, I didn't really like sometimes. But overall, I enjoyed this game. And yeah, man, that's basically my thoughts and opinions on Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. And so in the comments down below, let me know, did you play Metal Gear Solid Snake Eater? Did you enjoy the game? Did you not enjoy the game? Leave your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. And yeah, man, that's going to be it for me. So I'm going to go ahead and get out of here, and I will see you guys on the next one. So yeah, bye.
Darkness and silence through the night. What a thrill. I'm searching and I'll melt into you. What a fear in my heart. But you're so supreme. I give my life, not for honor, but for you. In my time